Hey, hello, this is Bob Jackson. We're here with SC202, Integrative Science, and this is week 5, Introduction to Biology and the History of Life. Some of the things I'm going to talk about in this unit is how life evolved on Earth and how we have the critters on Earth that we do today, including animals and plants and all the neat things in the oceans and on land as well. So then we'll also go back in time some, talk just a little bit about the dinosaurs and the Mesozoic era and the Cenozoic era, in which mammals evolved. And we'll talk a little bit about Charles Darwin and the Galapagos Islands. I'm getting ready this next year to take a group of students to the Galapagos Islands. And then we'll end talking a little bit about fossils. And kids do like fossils. You dig in and finding fossils, and there's some really neat ones. Okay, so I'm going to take us through this PowerPoint. Now then, the first thing to start with, anytime you want to talk the history of life, you have to start a talk with, and actually by fourth, fifth grade, they actually start integrating this into the state standards, and that is what we call taxonomy. Now, some of the terms may make easier and talk easier terms than some of them that come about in your higher level textbooks like you guys see in college. But taxonomy is just the science of classifying organisms. And I know each one of you went through school at some point while you were in school that you learned taxonomy, and that's where you were probably made to memorize kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And you may have had a saying for it, like King Philip came over for green soup or something like that. So you can memorize the order of the classifications, okay, from kingdom down. Usually you probably didn't really memorize domain like as on the PowerPoint here. Uh, we always started with kingdom and went down to species. So species is like a coyote or a um, Homo sapien, humans, be a squirrel or be a rabbit or whatever. But then you have genus like all your dog families, including coyotes, dogs and wolves and so forth, all will be in the same genus. Okay, then you have families and orders and so forth, class like mammals, all mammals fit into one class, and there's several different types of mammals out there, okay, to phyla. Okay, so a guy by the name of Linnaeus is one to come up with this system, so we call it the Linnaean classification system. And you call each of the groups actually taxa. So this is a kingdom is a taxa, phylum is a taxa, class is a taxa, and so forth. Okay, species is the smallest, and you work your way up from species to genus to family and so forth. Like species is an interbreeding group of animals. They're all the same thing. They're all rabbits. They're all raccoons. They're all horses. Okay, but species is the lowest level and kingdom is the highest level. And the two main kingdoms are plants and animals. And this is a good thing to teach students, really, second, third grade or so. And they know that. They can recognize what vegetation is, what plants are, and what animals are, and tell the difference between them. So we just start tagging these names to them. Okay, we don't get into the scientific names of animals based on the classification system at the elementary level. Okay, so I'm going on down through here. Kingdoms are the highest level of classification in the Linnaean system. So here are the kingdom that we recognize today. This has changed a little bit over time, but not really that much. Okay, you got the kingdom Archaea, kingdom bacteria that all of our bacteria are in. And of course, we've learned through time that bacteria are the ones that make up a whole lot of the germs and cause diseases and so forth in people. But they also do some good things out there in that they're um, bacteria that break things down in the soil and are needed for composting things really in the soil and helping to break it down. Kingdom Protista, which you see a lot of them in the water, a lot of protozoans and algae and stuff like that, that are very, very essential to an ecosystem. We may not recognize it, but there's also protists in the soil, okay, that are microscopic, that are essential for some of the same things as bacteria in breaking things down. Okay, Kingdom Fungi, which this is time of year in Indiana, a lot of us love to go mushroom hunting. Mushrooms are part of the fungi group or kingdom. Okay, but also mold and yeast. Yeast for making beer and making bread. Okay, I don't know whether you want to teach kids that making beer, but it is. Kingdom Plantae, that's your plants, and Kingdom Animalia, that's all of the animals, ranging from insects to, like, it has squid here, but it's your fish, it's your marine animals, it's your land animals, it's horses, it's grizzlies, it's elephants, giraffes, birds. Okay, Kingdom Animalia. Okay, so now then, here's some just some terms, and probably a higher levels of elementary. You'd start introducing these. That technical names of them are, you talk, when you talk genus of animals, you talk genera. That's a plural term for it. We talk families, we talk orders. Okay, and you talk kingdoms. Okay, and I've just talked this. Okay, and then binomial nomenclature. It is kind of important to get, you don't want them to memorize the names, but get them to understand what they are when they see them. That's it. They may not even be able to pronounce them right, but get them to recognize, and that's all about. That's all we're going for. And some of them that have watched TV and some movies and played some of the games they play and so forth, they recognize more than what you think because they use some of this stuff and different. But typically the technical name of an animal or a plant has two names to it. It has a genus name and a species name. And that's what we mean by binomial naming. Bi is two. There's two parts to the name. So like a lion is called Panthera leo. Okay, Leo the lion. Okay, here's some over here. Here's Lycaon pictus, African wild dog. Okay, vulpus, the common fox. Canis latrans, the coyote. The gray wolf is Canis lupus. And some of the kids will recognize like these names, particularly upper elementary, because they see it in whatever games and even on TVs and so forth. Canis, they'll recognize Canis has been related to dog and dog-like critters. Okay, but anyway, this is what we call binomial nomenclature. Genus name, species name. And that would you just teach kids that. You say, what's this right here? This is a genus name. This is a species name. Okay, and they will get to recognize the names. The ones like when they say it again, when they learn what a lion is, Panthera, and the Leo part, then they get it down. Okay, now here's some history of life on fossil records. We find some really neat fossils, and you could throw into your on your science curricula some of these and pictures and so forth of fossils. Kids think they're neat, and if you have your hands on some, you have some at home, taking them in to let kids see, it's really, really neat. But it's preserved remains in rock of plants and animals through time. Okay, and it gives us a glimpse of the past. And we can actually use these fossils to do what we call relative dating. Okay, we can find out how old that fish was based on what's in it. Okay, and relative dating is typically anymore done with carbon dating. Okay, and they do some fluoride dating, and they go on the amount of carbon-14 that's in that rock, in that fossil. And when they determine the amount, like when that fish died, all critters living have a certain amount of carbon-14 in them. And through time, that diminishes because carbon-14 is a little bit radioactive. And when it breaks down to carbon-12. So then taking a look, the amount of that carbon in them, they can determine how old it is because it's less and less through time. And that's what they do. And you just kind of talk that, say, let students know that that carbon dating is a key way of dating fossils, and you don't have to go into the. I mean, if you get into it, you get into the radioactive decay rate of carbon, but you don't have to talk that. Just know that there's a way of doing it, and that's through what we call carbon dating. And we talk the terms like relative dating of fossils is where we get a good guess based on facts we're seeing out there. And that's more where they find them in layers of rock. Absolute dating is really what when you go to carbon 14 dating or when they're using other things, they do use fluorine as well, but carbon 14 is by far the most common. Okay. Now, then, a little bit on history of life. Okay, we talk about the geologic time scale in which students that love the dinosaur stuff, I can tell you exactly when the Jurassic period was. It's probably the most famous and so forth to kids, particularly since Jurassic Park come out years ago, and we've had all the different episodes of it. But that's that's probably the most common. But now then, I don't think you want to talk eons with kids. They can't begin. Most people can't begin to understand that or see super eons. You might tell them what they are. Um, that like eons are the Phanerozoic and the Precambrian eras and so forth. Actually, Precambrian is a super eon, but you can mention them, but I don't know that that's a big learning thing. But knowing the eras of Cenozoic, Mesozoic, and Paleozoic, that's somewhat significant. And telling them, this is like you're talking 200 million years ago, okay, that you're here. This you can somewhat talk. As you get down here, I don't know that you can begin to get, because you can show them pictures of animals and things that existed back in these times, but it's not exciting to them. This Mesozoic era is, particularly if you put in some videos and stuff on the age of the dinosaurs, and they learn about the dinosaurs and how we know what they look like, how they acted, how they behaved, and so forth. So, but get them to understand there's geologic time, and we have eras, and then we have periods with them. The eras where certain things happened. Okay. Um, but you have the Mesozoic era, but within that era you have three periods: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous era. Then as you're coming up here, this modern time up here at the top, where we're talking Quaternary period. Okay. And that goes back and most of us can't imagine that, 1.8 million years, and we're still in this, okay, period of time. Okay. Um, but anyway, that's just I just have them know like these, okay, not all of them, and like say eras more than anything, and then the periods within the eras. Okay, here's the age of the dinosaurs. This one's alike. Okay, they lasted from 245 to 65 million years, so they were on the Earth for a long time, and that's what people can't hardly conceive. The very long time. Okay, and we have records that show us that, and by the shapes of the continents, if you look at the continents on the Earth as pieces of puzzle, one time you had one big landmass, and kids see this in movies, and whichever one of the games they play has Pangea in it. Okay, but when it was one big landmass on Earth, it was Pangea. Okay, and it significant things happened to the climate as the land features changed on the Earth, and particularly when you had Pangea breaking up and moving apart, but it was very, very, very slowly over time. Okay. Whoop. Yeah, I think I got everything there. Okay. And here's Probably what the kids would be most interested in, particularly showing more pictures of the different types of dinosaurs, like a pterodactyl. They all know Ceratosaurus. Trying to think what the ones that know the oh, most of them will know this guy, okay, and the Saurus, okay, and mainly from Jurassic Park. And I'm watching it. The Allosaurus, I think they really showed on Jurassic Park. Pterodactyl, Megalosaurus, they showed on there quite a bit. Okay, but if you just kind of show them, and this is just black and white ones, you can find a lot better ones on online. Okay, but if you break these time periods up, the periods in the Mesozoic era, this is Triassic period is when dinosaurs first appeared. Jurassic period was when the dinosaurs flourished, and most of the kids really know that name. Okay, and then in Cretaceous period is when the dinosaurs start dying out. Okay, and that's kind of the key thing to teach them. First started seeing dinosaurs here. Dinosaurs were prevalent on Earth here, and then we started seeing them as we got up to only 65 million years ago in the age of Earth. That's not that long. Then we started seeing the dinosaurs disappear. Okay. Now then, age of the mammals, which this is what led to all the mammals on the Earth. Okay, from some pretty hefty looking ones to what we see more today. Okay, and lions and tigers and bears and all. Okay, but this is a Cenozoic era. Okay, and it began about 65 million years ago, and within it you have the tertiary and quaternary periods. Okay, mammals started flourishing during the tertiary period. Okay, and it's when the climate of the Earth changed that was more conducive for these types of animals to live. Okay, so you call it the ancient Cenozoic era. It's the age of the mammals. The Jurassic period is the age of the dinosaurs. Okay, and then the Quaternary period, it's to the present time. Okay, we did go through some ice ages in this, and created land as we know it today. The last ice age was about 12,000 years ago. Okay, and very significant in North America. Okay, now then, Charles Darwin, most famous for theory of evolution and seeing how animals change through time and evolve to the areas in which they live. Just like you ask students, why does a polar bear have fur like it does? Well, it's got a nice, big, thick, hefty fur because it's up north and it's really cold most of the year. Okay, but as you go down towards the equator, you don't see that trait in most of the animals. You don't see the big, heavy hides on them. You just don't. The less so. And you can also have bigger, like your grizzly bears and brown bears and so forth will exist in the northern climes more because their big, husky bodies that they got a lot of fur, a lot of fat is more conducive for those colder environments. And a big old hefty bear like that doesn't have very good living conditions when you're going down south. Now you can see some black bears down in the southern states, particularly in the Smoky Mountains. Okay, but Charles Darwin, he was a famous scientist, and he's an important one to teach students about because a lot of things that we know today, Charles Darwin was the one that really taught us and through his writings. Okay, but in the 1830s, he spent 5 years traveling the world, and he was collecting specimens, including